I'm so excited for you to listen in on my chat with Jenny, Katie, and Mandy, the hosts of the hilariously relatable podcast, Mom's Night Out. I was a guest on their podcast a couple months back, and we had so much fun. And I just knew that I had to have them on my podcast. If you haven't listened to Mom's Night Out yet, it is a podcast for ambitious women who want a one-stop shop for advice and conversation. MNO covers topics including families, careers, friendship, pop culture, and also has inspiring interviews like the one with yours truly. Jenny, Katie, and Mandy are champagne-loving working moms who will win you over with their honesty and candor. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to remind you that today is the first day of my New Year, New Clarity, Organize Your Life in 2025 free bootcamp that's happening in a Facebook group. And you can join us inside by clicking the link in the show notes. And now, please help me welcome my incredible guests. Hello, ladies. I am so excited to welcome you to the Get Organized for Good podcast. We are going to be chatting all about the organization action steps that you ladies took after I was a guest on your incredible podcast. And I am so excited for my listeners to hear that. But before we dive in, I did give an intro on who you are and about your podcast, but I would love for you to share with my listeners a little bit about how you all met and how the idea for the Mom's Night Out podcast started.
Yeah, Ooh. I'll go through how we met. So I'm Mandy, and then you can see Katie and Jenny, and we all met through actually a mom's group in town several years ago when our daughters, we have daughters all the same age. Our oldest kids were the same. I have 2 kids. Katie has 3, and Jenny has 3 kids. But yeah, we all met through a mom's group in town. We weren't super close when we knew each other through the mom's group, but then we started to hang out more and more. We had, in air quotes, book club that really started to ramp up during COVID. Really? Yeah, wine club. And yeah, through COVID is when I think our bond really started to strengthen, just because, we needed each other during that time. And then post-COVID, we just got closer and closer. And then the idea of a Mom's Night Out came on a wine-fueled vacation on Cape Cod. And we just said, let's do it.
Okay, before we get into the start of the podcast, I'm going to take a detour. There's going to be a lot of detours throughout this podcast because that's how I do it. So I had actually just posted something on my Instagram and it resonated with thousands and thousands of people, like more so than anything I've shared in the past few months, really. And it was all about this idea of friendship. So I don't want to derail our conversation too much, but can you talk a little bit about this idea that like you weren't actually fast friends? And now flash forward and you are not only friends, but you run a business together. Can anyone just talk a little bit about that? Because the theme that keeps coming up that I'm seeing is how hard it is to make adult friendships. So I love the fact that it wasn't like it wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't immediate chemistry. So
it was love. I'm gonna jump in here. Love. I was obsessed with these girls. There was just a lot of other noise to weed out. Yeah. So it was like, we were in this big group of women. And so I think we kept navigating towards each other, but it did take a while to develop a friendship. And I think we have an episode on that. How many times does it say like 200 hours to forge an authentic friendship? Which that's a lot of hours when you're a mom.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you're working.
Yeah. And how old are your oldest now that you met through?
7, 8, and 8.
Okay, so this has been a 7 to 8 year long friendship. Okay, I love that.
That's insane.
All right, so let's talk about how you started the podcast.
Okay, well, my husband will credit himself for
love it.
Like calling us MNO, Mom's Night Out, MNO. But I think, he would joke with us whenever we went out and he's like, is it MNO? And so finally we were like, I think our podcast name is Mom's Night Out. And we were on vacation in Cape Cod. So, we started this podcast. It's a podcast for ambitious women who are looking for advice, motivation, and real conversation. And we cover topics including family, careers, friendship, pop culture, and everything in between. So we recently heard a really wise woman say, build the thing you need. And we needed this community. So we built this community and built it around a podcast about having real conversations.
I love it. And look at you now. So much fun.
You guys, is that right?
Yeah.
No, it's perfect.
And we're going to link it in the, obviously your podcast in the show notes for anyone who hasn't already listened to it so they can give it a listen. So, all right, let's get down to organizing. And when I was on your podcast, you all came into my house. It was so fun. And I dropped a lot of organizing bombs on you. And as we were wrapping up offline, we had stopped recording. We were like, wouldn't it be fun if you guys came on my podcast and talked about what you implemented or didn't implement from our conversation? So that's really the framework for what we're going to be talking about. So what were some of the biggest takeaways that you got specifically about organizing when we were all chatting?
I'll start. So you had said something around, this is not a direct quote, but you said, like, organization just makes your life easy, especially if you're a busy mom. And that is something that I literally think about all the time when I'm in my house, because I'm like, it's genius. It's such a brilliant thing to think about, because if I invest 10, 20 minutes a day, or even 30 minutes before I go to bed, organizing and picking up my house, it makes my morning that much better and that much easier on my kids. And so that for me was my biggest takeaway from having you on the podcast and talking to you. And it's something that's really stuck and lived with me every day since.
I love that. I do hear from people that they'll hear my voice over and over again in their head. So it's like, I'm sorry, or you're welcome. I'm not sure.
No, thank you. That was great.
I'll jump in. My takeaway was like buying the product. So I've always been so scared to pull the trigger and buy the bins, the labels, the label things that go on the bins. And I've always sort of been stuck in fear. And I finally heard your voice and went to Home Goods and went to the Container Store and went bin crazy. And it's an investment. But guess what? Now all of my drawers and closets are super organized. Everything has a place and everything has a label. So that was really big for me. You pushed me to that moment.
It was funny. Katie was sending us pictures like the weeks following the episode of like every single like pantry closet. It was awesome. My big takeaway, I loved the don't leave a room messy. So like when you're leaving a room, tidy it up. And I feel like and I've been an organized person, but that's been a little bit game changing. Like even my own bedroom, leaving and making sure like I just don't leave my clothes on the floor.
It's so true. And this is like a very in real time story. I got an Amazon package like 15 minutes before I hopped on to record, and they accidentally delivered a neighbor's package, which I didn't have time to walk over to his house. So I ran upstairs to look in the mirror, fix my makeup up before we were getting on here. And I walked downstairs and I was like jarred for a second because there was something on my kitchen island. Like, because I never just leave shit out. And I was like, oh, that's right. I didn't get a chance. But it's like the more you do it, the more it just becomes such habit that when you don't do it, you're like, oh, okay, that's not what we don't do that anymore. We don't just like leave stuff around. So I love that. Okay. So I want to get into some of the very specific things that worked for you. And as you guys are sharing, I would love for you to give some context around what your starting point was in terms of like, were you naturally organized? How had you given much thought to being organized before? And also how many kids you have and what their ages are. Because I think what's so important for moms to understand is that it absolutely is harder to do this the more kids you have and the younger they are. Like, we cannot pretend that that is not a reality. That is just the reality of our lives. And it is still very possible. And it makes our lives so much easier when we are organized. But I think it will be really helpful for everyone to understand just where are you coming from and what is the current reality of your lives?
I can go. I've always been super organized. Like too type A for my own good. So I was starting from a good spot. I have two kids, two girls too. So I think that's just their ages really help. So I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. But yes, always have been very organized. And my husband also knows that I'm a better person when things are organized. So he definitely keeps things clean. Like we're very much, everything has its place in our home. The thing that really helped after the podcast though was like getting my kids more involved. So I think there was the question that we asked you of how do you let kids play, that it's not just the dump everything out method. And I loved your answer of being like, well, they can dump it out, but just make sure they clean it up at the end. And we've started to do that in our house of like, okay, you can take everything out, but you have to clean it when you're done. And that goes for the playroom. It goes for their bedrooms. Like my 7-year-old now has been making her bed in the morning. And she just feels better.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I love that for anyone listening, because sometimes I'll have people come into my world or they'll join my membership and they're like, do I even need this? Because I already am so organized. I already am type A. I already have a place for everything. But it's like, there's always more you can learn, not because we're chasing perfection, but because these things can make our lives easier. Well, even around that specific example with our kids playing, it's like, a lot of us who are naturally organized, there's just so much guilt associated with being moms. Like you're naturally organized, you feel guilty about making your kids be too organized. You're not naturally organized, you feel guilty because your house is too cluttered for your kid, right? There's all the things. But one of the things I've heard from people who are super organized is just the stress around their kids playing because they want it to be neat and tidy, but they also don't want to infringe upon their kids playing. So I remember that specific example I shared, which is we don't want to dictate how our kids play. We just want to dictate how they clean up after they play. So I love that example.
It's so true. Okay, switching gears a little. I think my big takeaway, so I have 3 kids. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3.5-year-old. And so I am always on the go right now. My kids play sports. My car is always a dumpster fire. And so I think we shared the same life hack of cleaning your car, but I wasn't doing it regularly, like you said. So I've added that. It's a non-negotiable to my Sunday reset. And it has been life-changing, even for my mental state, right? So every Sunday I'm like, bye, honey, I'm leaving. And I go to the car wash. It takes 20 minutes. I go through and get the outside cleaned. They vacuum the inside. It's like $28, the place that I go to. It's the best money I've ever spent. And then I get my crispy Diet Coke. Like I truly do that every Sunday. And if it's earlier, I get an iced coffee and, I fill up on gas and like I do my little things and that sets the tone for the rest of my week. Like it's so funny how cleaning your car can change everything, but it's so easy. And then I'm inspired and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get my grocery shopping done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it just sets the tone for the Sunday reset. So I've really started making that a non-negotiable.
I love it. And I also love what I've been calling these pleasure pockets. So it's like getting the Diet Coke. I actually started doing my car washes not on a Sunday because I love getting the diet lemonade at Chick-fil-A, but they're not open on Sundays and it's like right next to the car wash. So now I'll get a car wash like on Saturday so that I can get my lemonade and also make phone calls. There are so many things change when your kids get older. So, my kids now are 14 and 11. I can't really talk on the phone in the car with them in it anymore. When they were younger, I could, right? They're not paying attention. But now that they're older, they're either listening in, and I don't want them to be, or they want my attention. So when I'm alone in the car by myself, that's when I can make phone calls by myself. So I also do that, to take that time when I'm getting my car washed to have my fun drink, but also make some phone calls to my girlfriend. So I love that you incorporate that in. And Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. You work outside the home, correct?
So like kind of twofold. Yes. So I work from home some days, but most of the time I'm a commercial real estate broker. So I'm on the road all the time. The girls laugh. We take calls together and I'm always in my car. So like it's important that my car is clean, right?
Absolutely. And I also think it's just helpful for people to understand that you are a mom of 3 and you all obviously have your business of your podcast, but also have other jobs in addition to that. So like you are a busy woman doing all the things. Yeah.
Send help.
I know. So I also have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, 2 girls and a boy. And I am not an organized person, have never been. It is a struggle. However, I know I need to be, like, in order for my day to be successful, I know I have to be organized, but it's something I'm always working on. I'm always working on keeping things tidy. So this was something that first of all, the bar was set really low. Like, I have so much improvement and opportunity. But so some of the things that really stuck with me were the Sunday reset about, spending the time zhuzhing up the house, I think is what you were saying, which has been really important. So it's everything from like, okay, at Sunday, we're all done with sports. So making sure all of our uniforms are washed and put away in a place where my kids know where they are so that the next time they can go and get it and access it on their own. That was a change that we implemented. Also, I think just making it a practice to go through each of our main living spaces and make sure they were organized. And the way that I've pulled my kids and the big change for us there was the spaces that they maintain. So their bedrooms and their playroom. And the playroom, I have to go in and help because I have a 2-year-old and he is like a little, he's like a feral raccoon, honestly. He destroys everything all the time. So I have to almost be like a decoy to like make sure the girls can clean up their space. But their bedrooms, I wish I could show you guys a picture. They like make their beds and it's not cute. It's messy, but I'm letting them do it, helping them tidy it up if it's really bad. But no, that's been a big positive change for us. We make time for it every morning before school.
I love it. So not to put you on the spot, but literally to put you on the spot. So you said that you were not naturally organized. Did it / does it bother you being disorganized? Or is it just one of those things where you're like, I feel like I should be more organized, but like, I'm doing just fine. I'm not really that bothered by it.
So I guess I can add a little bit more context. So one of the things that I splurge on in my life is I have a weekly house cleaner that comes. And so I would wait. So we would have piles of mail or whatever it might be. And then before they came, my husband and I would spend like hours preparing for them. But it kept us accountable, right? So we had that weekly check-in and it was high stress. Like, it added an unpleasant piece to my marriage as well as in the house. The kids could feel the tension, the stress. We were always yelling. So I think now kind of holding ourselves accountable and having it at Sunday and then touching up slowly before the cleaners come. They come at the end of the week for me on Fridays. It's been really life-changing because there's no stress on Thursday nights to clean up the house. I can go and help the kids in the playroom, make sure things are in the right bins or whatever.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to go around and ask each of you at the same time, what was the hardest part of this process and what was the easiest? Because I think it's so fun and great to talk about like what was easy and how much easier our lives are after the fact, right? But the reality is it can be hard to adopt new habits. It can be hard to get our kids on board. It can be hard to get our partners on board. So as you were thinking about any of these shifts that you've implemented, what felt easiest and what felt hardest?
I can go. Hardest, getting my husband on board. And I know we talk about that all the time. But oh my gosh, man, like, he is not an organized person. He is so many other things. Love you, honey. But he's not organized. And it's been really hard to get him on board. But something that I heard you say, and I said to him, was like, this is important to me. And this is important for my mental health. I'm a better mom when our house is in order. I'm more fun. I can be fun mom, right? Like, I'm not running around stressed. So that is still the hardest for me, is getting him fully on board and really getting him to like lean in with me.
I can go next.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mandy, go. Were you going to?
No, you can go. I'm still thinking.
I think for me, it's similar. I think my husband has got on board. Like, he likes the idea that things look clean and organized. Like, he does afternoon pickup from school, and he really likes now that the kitchen is all wiped down and clean and there's nothing on the counters. But he has lapses, right, where he doesn't do the mini resets every night. And so that consistency, I think, has been hardest. And I'm trying to not ride him about it and be gentle when I'm like, please, not in that way.
Yeah, please help me.
But the easiest, I would say, and what's giving me hope in that element is, for me, I mean, we recorded in October, I think, beginning of October. And it took a few weeks for it to become a habit for me. And now I just do it. I don't think about it. I don't dread it. It's just something I do before I go and sit down after dinner and kids in bed and all of those things. So I'm hopeful that he'll get there. And it's just taking him longer than I was hoping.
Yeah. And so for context, I'm not exactly sure when this is going to come out, but we're recording this in the beginning of December. So this has not been that long of a time in between having it's still very, very new. So I'd say that's massive progress in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's nice to hear.
You can change your life in 60 days. So hardest part, I think, was like letting my kids do more, because I feel like I was always just cleaning up because it was A, going to be quicker, and B, just things went where they needed to go. But I mean, my kids are old enough now. They're 5 and 7. Like, they know the different bins, and like Legos go in this one or Barbies in this one. And I wasn't letting them do that. So I think this made me be like, actually get them involved. They can do it, and they do it pretty well. And then easiest, I don't know, I was pretty organized. So I was very fortunate too that my husband knows, like,
is also organized.
If it's not organized, I'm not happy, and you don't want to not happy.
We don't want Mandy unhappy.
No.
Happy wife, happy life, guys.
Exactly. And organizing is like the one check that he can do easily.
I think maintaining it has been easiest for me, because you made this point, like, once you put the system in place, it's really not hard. I love how Jenny was like, we don't have the stressful Thursday night before the cleaning lady comes. That used to be really stressful for me too. Yeah. And now it's like every night we do the pickup. So maintaining it, once the system is in place, it really works, you guys. It
really does. I know.
Like, it's easy.
And it's so interesting because my kids were young, even younger than some of your older ones are now, when I put myself through this whole process. And now all these years later, it's like, we just don't even have conversations about it. My kids just know what to do. And so even though it feels hard when they're young, getting them involved, and they're not doing it, like for Mandy, who's type A, which I'm more type A also, like, they're not doing it exactly how you want them to, or Jenny, who's at the other extreme, where you're just like so happy they're doing it, right? Because you're not as particular about it. Like, either wherever you are on that spectrum, the younger you get them started, the easier your life gets, the older they get. Like, it just compounds. It's like that freedom and that help just continues to grow. So it's like, you don't just see the immediate rewards. It like keeps getting better and better and better. All right, let's go back to the husbands though. Ladies, did I teach you nothing about sexual bribery? Come on. You need a reminder. No, but let's chat about it. So it sounds like for those of you who would like your husbands to be more involved, it just doesn't bother them the way that it bothers you. Does that feel accurate?
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so I think, and it sounds like for both of you, there's been progress. I think the thing you have to keep in mind is it's that continual conversation around how important it is for you. And I think I've shared this about my husband is nothing bothered him for years and years and years and years, until he got so used to living this way that then when we'd be in other spaces, like if we would rent an Airbnb that was messy, he'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I can see how much better it is to not live this way. And he started adopting it into his work life, but it is a lengthier process for them. So like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like this is nothing. Like the fact that you're already seeing improvement, but this is where it does require continual conversations. And even with our kids, I feel like for sure for years, I was still reminding them, I'll say reminding, not nagging, even though I was like definitely nagging them, just giving them those reminders. Whereas now, so every now and then I'll be like, did you make your bed? And it's like, yes. And even on the weekends, my kids like get up, like before they go do their activities, like they make their beds. It's just what they do, but it really is a process. I think so many people give up on so many things in life, so many of our goals, because you don't see those immediate results. And like we've gotten more and more addicted to immediate gratification and immediate results. And what is great about organizing is there's some immediate gratification, but the more you do it, the more of that satisfaction you see. So you just got to stick with it.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of you, I think it was Mandy, had mentioned, oh no, Jenny, you were saying the accountability of having your housekeeper come. I think so. So like that keeps you on track. So I wanted to talk about this idea of accountability, but also community. So the G&G membership, which I created, the whole premise of it, aside from giving like super actionable, specific steps to take in each room in our house each month, is that there is this built-in accountability and community. Because let's face it, none of us is disciplined to do all the things we want to do without some type of accountability and community. Like for sure, for myself, I see it in all areas of my life, with working out, with any goal that I have. So the three of you had this little mini built-in accountability group and community, and you knew you were coming back on this podcast and you had to report back to me. So talk about how knowing that this conversation sort of looming over your heads and having each other helped you be more successful or not in the process of getting more organized.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think isn't it funny how we can show up for others, but not ourselves? I think about that all the time. Hi, I'm a people pleaser, so it's easy for me to show up for others. So it definitely helped knowing I'm like, oh no, Mandy and Jenny, like, what are they going to think? Like, so that definitely helped. I also just think in like having a community and having these two friendships, like these girls level me up. Corinne, when we met you and we walked into your house, I was like blown away by how organized it was. I know this is your job, but I feel like surround yourself with people who level you up. This past year, I've had so much personal growth on so many levels, income level, work wise, marriage wise, family wise, organizational wise, because of the accountability and the people I've surrounded myself. So exactly to your point, like surround yourself, join a community that's going to level you up. It works.
I can't follow that.
Mic drop.
I was like, no,
guys, these girls make me better.
Whatever
like,
Katie said.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's true. Like you guys all make me better. And even just meeting Corinne, we hung out with her for one day and I'm better. Yeah. So guys, join her membership. You will be better. You will be better.
It is so fun though, Katie, and I would echo what you say. I mean, I focus on that in all areas of my life, also with business and with friendships, and even, on a fitness journey. It is really about surrounding yourself with people who have a similar goal, but also who like maybe are a little bit ahead of you than where you want to go, right? Because it does. I said this, I think, on your podcast, that, and it's not my quote, but that kids rise and fall to the expectations that we set for them. And similar for ourselves, right? We can rise to expectations of not just what we set for ourselves, but the people around us. And you see people doing more and you're like, oh my gosh, that is possible for me. And I can do it too. And it takes work and it takes dedication, but it's oftentimes when we commit, it's not as hard to do as we think it's going to be. It's like, we just have to get out of our own damn way.
So true. Get some badass friends.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And listen to amazing podcasts that keep you inspired, right?
Yes.
Great.
For sure.
Get some friends that'll appreciate when you send them, like, you've organized your pantry or you've cleaned out 4 bags of trash from like the playroom. Like, I feel like we were all texting each other like these things of what we were doing. It was so funny. We were all like, yes, good job.
I love it.
And I think the women listening, if you don't have friends that you can do that to, you got the wrong friends, girl.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's right? So true. And I mean, we don't need to delve too much into this, but one of the things I found so interesting in running this membership, and why I love that the three of you were so open to talking about it, is there is still so much shame around how we run our houses and if they are cluttered, because we feel like it is somehow a judgment on the mom that we are, or the wife that we are, or the woman that we are, right? And so for me, it's been this interesting line to toe of trying to really teach all of us how to do better and be better, but not so we can wear it as a badge of honor, but so that our lives are better, so that our lives are easier, so that we can have more fun, so that we can be better moms, not because, again, it's a badge of honor, but because we're happier, we're less stressed, so we can play more, right? And so I do still think it can be hard for some people to talk about it because they feel ashamed of the state of their houses. But I'm like, first of all, no one taught us how to do it. And we're so freaking busy. Even if we know how to stay organized, we haven't been taught that in conjunction with like good time management practices and how we can do it in a way that actually gives us more time. So yes, get better friends. Or, I think that's what's so powerful in the membership is we have a Facebook group where people can share pictures of their wins. And we're like, we give out a monthly prize for bragging on the progress that you've made. And it's never about perfection. Yeah. We're like, share.
I'm going to mess up my closet just for this.
I love it. But it's like just share any progress that you've made, like brag, celebrate yourself. And then we'll give you a prize because we do want to celebrate that progress. And it's about both a safe place to, again, like really celebrate and brag, but also to say like, this is how bad it looked before. And like, there's just no shame around it because I think it can be hard.
It really can be hard. I think that too, your tips make it simple. You almost give it in these like bite-sized tips and tricks that you can slowly add one and then you add another one. And suddenly you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm much more organized and I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was just slowly adding some of your tricks to the pile, which is great.
I love it. Okay. I want to ask each of you, for anyone listening who is thinking about getting started, what is one piece of advice you would have? And for anyone who's not watching the video of this, so they're just hearing your voices, just say before you start your name and like, so like for Mandy, if you're going to go say like, I'm the one who's type A and super organized, because I do think it's relevant what you share as your piece of advice for someone getting started, depending on what your natural starting point was, right? Because it's not going to necessarily look the same for each of you. So just say like, naturally organized, not naturally organized, and then like what your piece of advice for anyone getting started would be.
Okay, this is Katie. I am like middle of the road, I think, on organization. And my advice would be just fucking start. I am a perfectionist. And so I think I said this before. I am frozen in fear if it's not perfect sometimes. And that's silly. Like you just have to friggin' start. And we have a podcast episode on that, but just start because that's how you're going to continue to grow and build.
I'd love that. And actually, since we're going to link your podcast below, if you want us to link that specific episode, that could be the one that we link below so that people listen to that. Because don't you hate when someone's like, I've got an episode on that. And you're like, well, which one is it? How do I
know?
Find it?
It's literally it's the first one, but just start and you'll get better as you go and you'll learn so much. Like I'm always frozen in fear. If I can't do the whole house, I'm not going to do anything, but just start small.
And I love that because we think about the entire road ahead of us for anything we want to take on. And it's too much. And that's why if you just look at the one step ahead of you, just the one next step you have to take, that is what gets you there. So I love that.
True.
I can go next.
I think you said it. There's no $1 million ideas.
Right. No $1 million, only $1 million execution. That's right. Yep, exactly.
That's so true.
It is. It's all about the execution. If you are paralyzed in fear, it just stays in your head. It never becomes a reality. And it's like, we get one shot at this life, one shot. What are we so afraid of? Like, yes, we're going to fail. Yes, we're going to make fools of ourselves. Yes, things aren't going to work out. But like, wouldn't you, I talked about this often. I keep this in my desk. I don't like tchotchkes, but when I started this business, one of my friends gave me this little magnet. It says, I'd rather regret the things I've done than regret the things I haven't done. And when you think back in our lives, right? Yeah, like there's things I wish I did better, I didn't fail at, but I never regret doing those things. The only regrets are like the things that I wasn't brave enough to do. And I've committed since I've turned 40 that I'm not going to live that way anymore. Just do the damn thing.
I love that.
All right, who's next?
Okay, I can go. So Mandy.
Yeah.
super organized from the beginning. I do think the one tip, and I think I was able to be super organized though, is because like my husband knew like that I just really needed to be for my mental health. I'm just a nicer person all around. I'm more effective if I'm organized. I need it. So I think that's one tip of if, you do want to start to organize your house and your life. I think just being able to communicate that was a tip you gave to us, is having that conversation of, I need this. Like, it's not just me wanting to be organized, but I will be a better person. I'll have more mental clarity. I'll just be happier.
Yes.
Yes.
I do love that. Hi, this is Jenny. I am mom of 3, hot mess. No, just kidding. Partially true.
Hot. You are hot.
Emphasis on the
hot. Guys. No, I think for me, the advice I would give to anybody listening, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that think this way, I think my kids are a lot of the time the motivation over the last few months that I've been coming back to. How do I instill good practice in them to set them up for success? And I'm like, okay, I might not want to like tidy up the house or, kind of get into it. I know with my 8-year-old, so we got to do something that she doesn't want to do. But in the end, she's going to be better off for it, or whoever it might be that I'm sort of talking to. So I think I keep coming back to that idea that I'm setting them up for success, whether it be, roommates in college or, after, in their young adult life, or maybe it's in their work, in their professional life. How do I set them up so that they have good habits now that are going to set them up for an organized life then? And so that's something that I keep coming back to, and how like my husband and I really have to change some of the things that are going on in our house to pull this off for them.
I love that. It's such a powerful motivation, and we all always want to do better and can do better, right? And so it's like we can want that and we can do that, but also take the shame off of all the things that we're not doing that we wished we would have or thought we should have already. It's like it's all a process. We're all on a journey, and such a gift we give our kids, the better we become every year. I feel like my one thing that I'm proud of, and it feels like we're all sort of on a similar journey, is my kids get a better version of me every year. And of course, there's that part of me that wishes they had this version from the beginning, but they didn't. So I don't waste my time and energy and tears on that. And I just think that I'm thankful for myself that they get this better and better version of myself every year. And I am also thankful that I get it to be this better version of myself because it's more fun, right? So it's just like, it's better for everyone. All right. So there you have it. Getting organized changes lives. Okay. Before I let you go, ladies, I always end on some rapid fire questions, which you've not seen in advance. I typically ask 5, but I'm doing an even 6 so that you can each get 2. I've assigned them to each of you. So I'm going to say your name.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say your question. Yeah. And just say whatever comes out of your mouth.
I'm scared.
All right. Okay. Jenny, a life-changing piece of advice you've gotten.
I don't know. Just fucking start.
Love it. Love it. Just fucking start. All right, Katie, something you'd tell your 21-year-old self.
Who cares?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Mandy, what makes you feel your smartest?
Ooh, gosh. My smartest?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just being able to walk into a room and talk to a bunch of different people. Like being able to connect with a bunch of different people from all different backgrounds or different ways of life. Yeah.
Love that. Ooh. Jenny, what makes you feel your calmest?
My calmest? Definitely alcohol. Wine. Maybe some other things.
Exactly. We can mention it all here. No.
The beach.
The beach. That's what she meant.
Definitely. My kids' teachers are listening.
Alone on the beach, not with children.
All right, Katie, what makes you feel your sexiest?
Oh my gosh. An all black outfit.
Ooh.
Always.
Yes.
All black every day.
Yes. All right, last question, Mandy, what makes you feel most organized?
Ooh, a good list.
A good list. There you have it, friends. A good list, which some of us might say makes us feel our sexiest also. So there you have it. All right, ladies.
Those were fun.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for being here. Anyone have any parting words before you go? I will say we're going to link the pod in the show notes along with the pod Instagram account if anyone wants to connect with you guys there, because I know that you're active on there. Any parting words before I let you go?
No, I mean, everyone needs Corinne in their life. And everyone needs a Mom's Night Out podcast.
That's right. Yeah. The perfect combination.
Perfect combo.
All right. Thank you, ladies. And I hope to see you inside the membership.
Yep.
Yes,
we'll be there. Join us. We'll be there.
It's going to be so much fun.
I can't wait.